Father-in-law Kaido's monster cells create the strongest beasts. 81. Slippery fruit, Nami, eagle eye and green algae head, replaced cover. Luo Xing randomly found a small boat on the shore of Lake Town to go out to sea, but the boat was very uncomfortable to ride, especially there is no room and no bed, which is not good. Luo Xing told Yamato, we have to find a big boat with a room. Observation Haki spread out, searching the sea for ships. The sea is really too vast, and human beings are really insignificant in front of it. Such an aimless search, even with Luo Xing's knowledge, it takes a lot of effort to find a suitable boat. But what Luo Xing didn't expect was that he was lucky and found it within a few minutes. Moreover, the owner of that ship was a person who made a little impression on him. Luo Xing threw the boat directly, hugged Yamato's slender waist, and walked towards the boat on the moonwalk. Sea level dozens of miles away, a pirate ship with flying skeletons. A fat, freckled ugly 137 woman was beating a slave with a mace. Arsehole, Straw Hat Luffy, sooner or later my mother will let you know how good I am. This fat woman was the first enemy Alvida, Luffy met when she went to sea. She was defeated by Luffy not long ago, and even another slave, Kirby, was rescued by Luffy. Alvida hates Straw Hat Luffy so much that she vows revenge. And what gave her the confidence to take revenge was actually a devil fruit. It turns out that after being beaten up by Luffy, she had a chance to find a devil fruit. God really wants to help her Alvida. After Alvida vented his anger at the slave, he held up the devil fruit as if he was looking at a rare treasure, with an excited expression on his face. This is a slippery fruit, and it will definitely make my mother the most beautiful and powerful woman in the world. She opened her mouth wide and was about to swallow the slippery fruit. Suddenly, an orange-haired girl next to her stopped her. Lord Alvida, if this slippery fruit is sold, it can be sold for hundreds of millions of Baileys, and we will have nothing to worry about for the rest of our lives. Alvida glared angrily at the orange-haired girl and shouted, "Little thief cat, don't think that the old lady doesn't know what your plan is. You want to sell the slippery fruit and take the money yourself." The orange-haired girl is the little thief cat Nami. When she went out to sea to find the gold master target, she happened to see that Alvida had found the slippery fruit, so she mixed up and prepared to steal it. Unexpectedly, Alvida knew her name, didn't believe her at all, and arrested her. Nami had an embarrassed smile on his face, but his eyes rolled slyly. Since she can't steal the slippery fruit, she should find a chance to escape. After Alvida reprimanded Nami, the corners of his mouth were drooling, and he opened his mouth to swallow the slippery fruit again. In no mood, another extremely abrupt voice stopped her. "Giving you this devil fruit is too much of a waste. You might as well give it to me." After being interrupted twice, Alvida was completely angry and shouted, "Who bothers the old lady again? The old lady will kill you." Alvida's fierce eyes stared at the source of the voice. The next second, the fierce expression turned into sluggishness, and then fear. Luo Xing hugged Yamato and slowly landed on Alvida's boat on the moonwalk. He seemed to take a walk in the garden, just like in his own home, took the slippery fruit from Alvida's hand, tossed it, and put it in his pocket. Yamato asked in surprise, "Husband, do you want to become a capable person too? Then this devil fruit is too low level." Luo Xing said, "Of course I don't eat it. Although it is low level, it is still a devil fruit, which may come in handy in the future." Not maybe, but definitely will come in handy. For Luo Xing, slippery fruit is more useful than thunder fruit, because the slippery fruit will make a woman's skin ultimate smooth, like ice and cheese. It will slip out when touched. Luo Xing plans to let Xiaozi eat this devil fruit. Of course, this is absolutely not to let his wife Yamato know. His eyes swept across the face of the little thief cat Nami, fell on Alvida, and simply spit out a few words, "Want to die or live?" Alvida knelt down neatly and trembled. "See you." Although she is a low-level pirate, she still has basic eyesight. The man and woman in front of them can fly by stepping on the air, especially that man. The imperceptible aura that made her almost suffocate. He is 100 times stronger than any pirate she has ever seen before. She has no doubt that as long as the man in front of her moves her finger, she will die without a place to be buried. Luo Xing nodded lightly, then rolled to the side and stand. Alvida rolled away numbly, actually rolling on the ground. The little thief cat Nami was stunned and dumbfounded. Alvida is also a powerful pirate with a bounty of 5 million Baileys. How can he be so servile, and even dare not mention the slippery fruit that was stolen? Nami's heart suddenly surged with unprecedented fear. She intuited that this strange man was even more terrifying than her biggest nightmare, the Merlikalong. Luo Xing ignored Nami for the time being. He looked into the distance with a faint smile on the corner of his mouth, and said to his wife Yamato, "Right now, there are 2 very interesting people coming, and maybe a more interesting duel." 35. Yamato's beautiful eyes were suspicious, and her observation Haki sensed someone approaching them. Does the husband know those people? Hawkeye looked coldly at the 3 people standing in front of him. A green algae head with 3 knives hanging around his waist, and 2 swordsmen with vicious expressions. They looked small at first glance. "No names, get out of the way." 35. Hawkeye said without the slightest emotion. The green algae head had an excited expression on his face. He took out 2 knives and held them in his hands. He put one in his mouth, and the muscles all over his body trembled with excitement. It's so lucky. On the way, I happened to meet you, Dracula, the world's first swordsman. Duel with me, the strongest swordsman in the world. 5.4. Suddenly, a sword beam swept across the sea, causing huge waves to overturn the boat that the 3 were on. Hawkeye glanced at the 3 people who fell into the water and struggled, expressionless. Without saying a word, he just left. Zoro was in a hurry. Don't go. I want to challenge you. Don't you dare to duel with me? The 2 swordsmen said. Big brother Zoro, that Hawkeye's a coward. Let's leave him alone. Let's go to Shield Town. 99. Zoro said angrily. It's been a lifelong dream of mine to beat Hawkeye. What else in Shields? Saying that, he overturned the boat that was overturned by the waves. Fortunately, the planks are not broken. He quickly got on the boat and chased in the direction Hawkeye left. Johnny and Joseph behind him also hurriedly boarded the boat. Wait for me, big brother Zoro. Change the cover. The original cover is too ugly. 82. The King of the Sea stronger than the 4 emperors. The duel between Zoro and Hawkeye. Please subscribe. Add. Brother Zoro, Hawkeye is clearly heading east. Why did you move the bow to the west? What? How is it possible? Is the direction wrong? Brother Zoro, you're not a lunatic, are you? 99. Zoro, 66. 99. Johnny, Joseph, let the 2 of us take the helm. After such a delay, Hawkeye was gone. Fortunately, Johnny Joseph looked for the direction, and just rowed forward desperately. Alvida pirate ship. Luo Xing looked at a small boat on the sea quickly approaching him. The man in black with the long knife on his back, who came up and sat down, could feel the fierce aura emanating from him even though he was separated by such a long distance. Yamato next to him said in surprise, is this person the legendary Eagle Eye, the world's #1 swordsman? 5. Luo Xing said, not bad. Alvida, who rolled to the corner tremblingly, shuddered when she heard it. Hawkeye, the 7 warlords of the sea? How could he be here? It's over, it's really dead now. Alvida is scared like this, let alone Nami who has no strength. Nami swallowed hard, his eyes rolled round, and his brain turned extremely fast. Her strength is indeed low, not even comparable to Alvida, but her brain is quite intelligent and flexible. Otherwise, she would not be able to hang around on many dangerous pirate ships and steal so much money. That Shikibukai Hawkeye must have come to find this strange couple. They're both scarier guys than Arlong, and they're bound to be inexorable later. At that time, I will find another opportunity to sneak away quietly. Nami made up his mind and stepped back quietly. Hawkeye stopped 50 meters away from the Alvida pirate ship. This man is so rigorous and terrifying that even the distance of every meter is very accurate. Eagle-eyed eyes that were as sharp as knives glanced at Luo Xing and Yamato. He didn't know the man and woman in front of him, but he could feel that both of them were strong. Especially that man, vaguely seemed to give him a sense of extreme danger. Which one of you is the King of the Sea? Hawkeye's opening was a sentence that made Luo Xing almost unbearable. King of the Seas? Luo Xing looked strange. But when I think of the friendship between Hawkeye and Redhead, I probably understand the reason. Add. Cough cough. Luo Xing coughed and said solemnly, the King of the Near Sea, the King of the Sea, and even the 4 emperors are not his opponents. How could the 2 of us be? Hawkeye's pupils narrowed. The 2 powerhouses in front of them are not the kings of the Near Sea. How terrible is the King of the Near Sea? No wonder the Redhead would have his arm cut off. Yamato approached Luo Xing and asked in a low voice, is there such a terrible existence? Why didn't you hear your husband mention it before? Luo Xing said, even mentioning the title of King of the Offshore Sea is a great disrespect to that existence. 39. Yamato opened his mouth in surprise. Hawkeye's even more afraid of the King of the Sea. Only Alvida, a little confused. She remembered that in the waters around the windmill village, there seemed to be a sea king called the King of the Offshore Sea. Although it is really scary, in front of Hawkeye, Shikibukai, and that scary man, he is at most a small loach. Why did they say the King of the Seas was worse than the 4 emperors? Alvida was dumbfounded. But he was very sensible and didn't make any questioning voices. Here, there is no reason for her to speak. Eagle Eyes looked at Luo Xing and said, although you are not the King of the Offshore Sea, I sensed your haki before, which is quite tyrannical. You have a sword on your waist, and you should also be a swordsman. 35. I, Dracula, challenge you. Hawkeye has been traveling in East Blue for a while, and he has never met a decent powerhouse. Hands are already itchy. Although the King of the Offshore Sea has yet to be seen, it is not bad to meet Luo Xing. Let's play a game. Nami's eyes lit up when he quietly touched the retreating, and sure enough, these 2 terrible guys were going to fight. Unexpectedly, in the next second, I heard Luo Xing's voice saying, I'm just a scientist with no strength. You should leave the opportunity to the young people behind you. Turn out to be Zoro, Johnny, and Joseph made a big circle, and finally arrived at this time. Zoro rushed to Hawkeye without a word, drew 3 knives, and shouted, my name is Roronoa Zoro, the strongest swordsman in the future world. Hawkeye, please accept my challenge. Hawkeye frowned. Looking deeply at Luo Xing, this strange and mysterious man did not accept his challenge, beyond his expectations. You must know that in this sea, as long as he is a swordsman, no one wants to fight with his eagle eye. Didn't see that green algae head, chased so far, just to challenge him? Hawkeye couldn't see through Luo Xing, glanced at Zoro and said, such an ignorant young man, I don't know how high this guy is, how much he comes here is just an insignificant speck of dust. Luo Xing smiled after hearing this. No one stands in the sky from the beginning, and the throne of this sky always has to be contested to be interesting. Hawkeye, if you don't give him a chance, how can you know whether this young man will be a swordsman who surpasses you in the future? Luo Xing's remarks not only shocked Hawkeye, but also resonated greatly with Zoro. Zoro looked at Luo Xing with gratitude. Hawkeye was silent for a moment, then finally turned around and looked directly at Zoro. Okay, I'll give you this chance. The two jumped to a deserted island nearby. Yamato asked Luo Xing suspiciously, that green algae head looks very weak. Why are you so optimistic about him, husband? 35. Luo Xing said meaningfully, although this person is weak, he has the courage to become a strong man. If he can be drawn into 100 beasts, he will be a powerful fighting force in the future. Besides, have you seen the two swordsmen behind him? Yamato looked at Johnny and Joseph behind Zoro and nodded. I see. 39. Those two, one is Johnny, the god of swords, and the other is Sword Saint Joseph. If Hawkeye dares to harm the green algae head, they will hack Hawkeye to death. Yamato gave Luo Xing an angry look. No matter how stupid and innocent she was, she could see that Johnny and Joseph were weak and could not be weaker. The couple joked while watching the battle on the desert island. It was said to be a battle, but it was actually over in a few seconds. Hawkeye took out a small crossed dagger from his chest. Zoro's eyes widened in disbelief, feeling deeply humiliated. Are you looking down on me? Hawkeye's face was expressionless, and he didn't even bother to answer. An angry Zoro attacked. The three knives swung like a windmill and were very fast. Clang clang. All were blocked by Hawkeye's small dagger. The more Zoro fought, the more frightened, the more desperate he became. How could he be so different from the other? I don't believe it. Am I such a weak man? Zoro's eyes were red, and his swords were backwards, posing as a tiger. 3 swords, tiger hunt. 35. Puchy tilde. Still can't touch the corner of Hawkeye's clothes. Hawkeye's small dagger stabbed him in the chest. Why doesn't 137 step back? Do you want to be stabbed in the heart? 35. Hawkeye's indifferent expression finally showed a touch of emotion. I would rather die than be defeated. Hawkeye moved again. Although he is weak, he already has the heart of a strong man. Interesting. Hawkeye took the initiative to retract the dagger and pulled out the black knife. Knight behind him. I recognize your dignity as a swordsman. In order to show the etiquette of a swordsman duel, I will use the world's strongest black sword, and let you be buried here. 5. Zoro bit his hilt and grinned. I can't ask for it. 3 swords. Profound truth. 3,000 worlds. With a crisp sound, Zoro's 2 knives were broken except for the word head out. Zoro silently put away and said a word. Turn around, open your arms, and face Hawkeye. What? Hawkeye asked. Zoro laughed. The scar on the back is a shame for a swordsman. Hawkeye was completely moved. You boy. Great. I remember your name. Roronoa Zoro. 9. The black knife slashed through the air and slashed at Zoro's chest. Blood splattered. Zoro fell to the ground. There was no gorgeous scene of the battle, but it made everyone onlookers silent. Yamato said in shock, husband, what you just said is right. That green algae head has the audacity to become the strongest swordsman in the world. Luo Xing smiled slightly, moved his feet, and flashed to Zoro's side. Zoro lost his eyes and burst into tears. The first complete defeat in his life was a huge blow to him. Luo Xing stretched out his right hand towards Zoro on the ground and smiled. Be my subordinate, boy. I can give you the greatest power in the world. 83. Luo Xing's identity is exposed. Zoro eats dragon-level monster cells. Subscribe. Be my son. Perhaps Whitebeard's line has a more convincing effect. Unfortunately, Luo Xing is not as old as Whitebeard, nor does he like being a father as much as Whitebeard. Zoro, who was lying on the ground, stared blankly at Luo Xing, who appeared beside him for some reason, and then looked at the saber on Luo Xing's waist. You are also a swordsman? No. I'm just a scientist with little strength. Then how do you want me to have the strongest power in the world? Zoro looked puzzled. Since Luo Xing is not a swordsman, how to teach him swordsmanship and how to make him the strongest? Scientists certainly use inventions to make people stronger. Invention? Is it a drug that enhances the human body, or something like devil fruit that empowers people? It can improve your physical strength, and it may also allow you to acquire special abilities, depending on your own good fortune. Zoro was shocked. Is there such a magical thing in this world? It seems that he is really like what Hawkeye said, a complete frog in the bottom of the well. Zoro didn't hesitate, then struggled to stand up and said, as long as I can become stronger, I'm willing to be your subordinate. Luo Xing showed a satisfied smile at the corner of his mouth. took out a strangely shaped purple meat piece from his pocket, and said, "Eat it and you'll get stronger." Just as Zoro was about to reach out to pick it up, a surprised voice came from the side. "This is a monster cell? It turns out that you are the mysterious concubine of beasts, Luo Xing, who is known as the fifth emperor of the sea." 55. Other than Yamato, the only person present who could recognize the monster cell at once was Hawkeye, who had seen the monster cell once in the redhead. Eagle eyes stared at Luo Xing with sharp eyes, and all the muscles in his body became excited. "No wonder the sabre around your waist was unusual just now. It must be the sword of hell that can devour Haki, Yanmo. I didn't expect that a mysterious character like you would appear in East Blue." With Hawkeye's words, Zoro, Alvida, Nami, and even Johnny, the god of swords, and Saint Joseph, all showed incredible expressions. This man turned out to be the concubine of the most talked about beasts in the sea recently, Wu Huang Luo Xing. Alvida was terrified and shivered like a sieve. Nami's heart was beating wildly. He swallowed hard, looked at Luo Xing blankly, and even forgot his escape plan. This man is the legendary 5 Emperor Luo Xing. Arlong is not even a fart in front of him. As for Zoro, after a moment of astonishment, he became more relieved. There is no shame in being a subordinate of Luo Xing, the 5th emperor who is more famous than Hawkeye. Instead, it might still be an honor. After all, the dignified 5 emperors invited you to become his subordinate, which means that you have been recognized by the 5 emperors. A hint of helplessness appeared on Luo Xing's face, and he still wanted to maintain a sense of mystery. "Mihawk, why are your eyes so sharp?" Luo Xing looked at Hawkeye and shrugged. "Since you recognized me, what are you going to do?" "Take me to the world government to receive a reward." The reward for catching Luo Xing alive is as high as 5 billion Baileys, and few people will not be tempted. Hawkeye, however, had no plans at all, and said with a hint of excitement in his tone, "Although I am Shikai Bukai, the world government has not issued a mandatory order, and I have no obligation to do things for them. I just want to do one thing right now, which is to say what I said before." Hawkeye took a deep breath and said word by word, "I, Dracula Mihawk, in the name of the world's strongest swordsman, challenge you." The 5 emperors Luo Xing. Luo Xing's expression became more and more helpless. "I'm really just a weak scientist. You can go to my cheap father-in-law Kaido when it comes to fighting and killing, can't you? 3 disasters can also be enough for your eagle eye to fight exhausted." Luo Xing sighed, looked at Hawkeye, and said very seriously, "I don't like to fight, I just like to tinker with inventions. But if you have to fight, you must see blood. In other words, you will die here today." Hawkeye. The serious and flat voice made people feel endless chills in their hearts. "If you don't make a move, you will kill the enemy." Is this the majesty of the 5th Sea Emperor? Even Hawkeye, a world-class swordsman, could not help but feel a cold hair standing on end. He finally understood why the redhead and Beckman were extremely jealous of Luo Xing on the day he left, and even said that Luo Xing would be a more terrifying existence than Kaido of the beasts. From the eagle's eye now, this sentence is true. "Lord Luo Xing, it's me who defeats Hawkeye. It must be me. This is my lifelong dream. It's my oath. It's my promise with Kuina." Zoro, who was seriously injured, knelt down and said loudly with all his strength, "Please." 35. Luo Xing lifted Zoro up and said to Hawkeye, "It seems that the one who killed you will not be me. How about satisfying a young man's ambition?" Hawkeye didn't speak for a long time. "It's a default." Luo Xing smiled at Zoro and said, "Eat this monster cell. You still have a long way to go if you want to defeat Hawkeye." Zoro is grateful. After taking the monster cell, he was about to eat it when he suddenly remembered something and said, "Lord Luo Xing, I read in the newspaper that the monster cells you invented can be divided into low-level and high-level ones, and I want to eat high-level monster cells." Luo Xing said, "This is a high-level monster cell, a ghost level higher than a tiger level." Although Zoro is weak now, he has polished his body since he was a child and has performed high-intensity exercise every day. His physical fitness is far superior to Enlil. Therefore, according to Luo Xing's estimation, Zoro should be able to barely withstand the side effects of ghost-level monster cells. Zoro's ambitions don't stop there. Is there anything above the ghost level? Luo Xing hesitated for a while. Above the ghost level, of course, there are dragon-level monster cells. But what dragon-level monster cells need is not only physical strength, but also sufficient strength to support. Even in a group of beasts gathered by the strong, there are only 3 disasters that can support the side effects of dragon-level monster cells. And if you can't bear it, you will only end up dying. Zoro's current strength is far from enough. Luo Xing is very optimistic about Zoro, and does not want to lose such a potential subordinate. So, he hesitated to tell Zoro the truth. But hesitation is actually an answer. Zoro sighed. "Lord Luo Xing doesn't have to worry so much. No matter what happens, it's my own choice." Luo Xing's voice said, "You may die." "I've already died once." Zoro grinned, just after the defeat. For Zoro, who aspired to be the strongest since childhood, defeat was tantamount to death. And since he chose to live, he would never experience the feeling of defeat again. As Zoro shouted in the original, "I will never lose again." 0. Good Zhao. Seeing Zoro's calm expression, Luo Xing nodded. Take back the ghost-level monster cells and take out the dragon-level monster cells he had prepared for Enel. Zoro took it and ate it without hesitation. Yamato hurried over from the boat, and she also knew the horror of dragon-level monster cells. Husband, why do you want to give it to him? With the current strength of green algae head, it is impossible to hold it up. Luo Xing said with a hint of emotion. This is a man's consciousness, and I can't refuse points. Hawkeye actually came over and agreed with Luo Xing's statement. He looked at Zoro, who was rolling on the ground in pain because he ate dragon-level monster cells, and suddenly shouted, Roronoa, hold on. I'm in the strongest position in the world, waiting for you. Get past me, Roronoa. 99. Zoro struggled and roared like a beast on the ground, seemingly losing his mind. But he still retains a trace of sobriety, the last trace of sobriety. An indistinct roar came out of his teeth. That ... is ... of course. 84. Zoro, who became a monster, shocked the eagle eye. Subscribe. Add. The epidermal cells in Zoro's body are proliferating and dividing like crazy. His 7 orifices bleed. His eyeballs protruded, and his teeth became sharp like knives. His limbs became twisted, ligaments were torn, bones were twisted, and even his neck was bent into a strange arc. It's hard to imagine how much pain Zoro is going through right now. And such a terrifying scene did not happen when the 3 calamities ate dragon-level monster cells at that time. This fully shows that Zoro's current strength is simply unable to withstand dragon-level monster cells. But Zoro is still holding on. He gritted his teeth and let out a low growl like a beast. Boom! His little left leg burst and turned into blood mist. What? Even with the strong willpower that Zoro had cultivated since childhood, he couldn't help crying out in pain. Husband, let him stop. 99. Yamato grabbed Luo Xing's arm and said anxiously. Luo Xing shook his head and said, once I eat the monster cells, even I can't stop. Yamato was stunned, looked at Zoro who was rolling on the ground in pain, turned his head away, and his beautiful eyes showed an unbearable look. Hawkeye is also always paying attention to Zoro's changes. He had already seen that Zoro might not last long, and couldn't help sighing. This young man does have the heart of a strong man, and his future achievements are limitless, but he is too eager for quick success. If Zoro eats ghost-level monster cells, then he will suffer, but his life will never be in danger. And although the dragon level and the ghost level are only 1 level apart, the difference in strength is more than 10 times, and the side effects are also the same. Dragon-level monster cells are too powerful for Zoro, who has just left the sea. Like an ant trying to lift a big rock, it is impossible to do it without external help. It just so happened that Luo Xing really had external forces. 137 Luo Xing walked up to Zoro and said, open your mouth. Zoro still had the last trace of clarity left, barely opening his mouth. Luo Xing threw a small green pill into it. Hawkeye's eyes flashed, and he said in surprise, that's the fairy bean that claims to be able to heal all injuries? Luo Xing nodded. Not bad. Although Zoro can't hold dragon-level monster cells, after all, he has a strong physique and tenacious willpower, and can survive for a long time without dying. In this way, Luo Xing can feed him Xiaozi so that Zoro can recover from his injury and continue to fight hard. To put it bluntly, adding blood to Zoro is equivalent to 1 more life. Really, Zoro's newly ruptured left leg recovered, his body was much better, and his shouting was not as painful as before. But it didn't take long before Zoro couldn't hold on anymore. Seeing this, Luo Xing fed him a fairy bean again. Just like that, whenever Zoro couldn't hold it, Luo Xing fed him immortal beans and blood to keep him alive. After feeding 5 fairy beans, Zoro's breath finally completely stabilized, and the swollen cells of the epidermis gradually returned to their original state. Add another quarter of an hour passed. Zoro stood up from the ground, his bare upper body full of lean, full muscles. Plop tilde. Zoro knelt down to Luo Xing and kowtowed. Great kindness, great virtue, I will never forget it. A man like Zoro made such a big gift, as if to show a determination to swear allegiance to the death. A satisfied smile appeared on Luo Xing's face. It is completely worthwhile to exchange 5 fairy beans worth tens of billions of Baileys for the sincere loyalty of Zoro, the strongest swordsman in the future. Luo Xing raised Zoro with both hands and said gently, how do you feel? I feel great. Zoro got up and clenched his fist and swung his fist out. Even though he didn't hit the big tree several meters away, the big tree, Bife, was directly knocked down by the fist wind. Hawkeye was astonished to see it, and even couldn't help but envy. Such a powerful strength is only due to eating a monster cell. Even if I cultivated from a weak age, it would take more than 10 years to have such strength. 5. Hawkeye turned his gaze to Luo Xing again and sighed in his heart. Weird cell, fairy bean. Even if this man is not very strong, his invention is enough to shake the entire world government. Hawkeye, let me challenge you again. Zoro, who recovered, couldn't wait to challenge Hawkeye for the second time. Luo Xing pulled Yamato back to the Alvida pirate ship. After being blessed by dragon-level monster cells, Zoro's strength is far from being comparable to the past. His duel with Hawkeye will never be as unpretentious as before. The scene of the two will be huge, and the deserted island may be destroyed. Hawkeye pulled out the black sword knight behind him, And he also wanted to know how strong Zoro was at this moment. Come on, boy. The body is full of unprecedented surging power, making Zoro extremely confident. His 2 knives were destroyed by Hawkeye before, leaving only the word head out, so he borrowed the knives of Johnny and Joseph. So, big brother Zoro, your muscles, your height. Johnny and Joseph were completely dumbfounded and stunned. Everything that just happened, they were like watching magic. Ah, I feel like a dream too. Zoro lit up the muscles of the upper right arm that are thicker than the tree. Suddenly I have such strong muscles and my height has grown by almost a meter. I feel like I have become a monster. Speaking of the word monster, Zoro suddenly smiled, with a light full of ambition in his eyes. But, that's exactly what I want. There is no beast in this world that does not become a monster. After speaking, he returned to the deserted island and met Hawkeye. Zoro put the words head out in his mouth, holding the knives of Johnny and Joseph in both hands, and said confidently, Hawkeye, you have to be careful. This time, I won't play children's games like I did before. Hawkeye smiled and said, it's very good that you have such fighting spirit, and you have a lot of momentum. Compared with just now, there is indeed a world of difference. 39. However, the #1 swordsman in my world is not as fragile as you think. Zoro grinned. That would be the best. Call out. Zoro moved, extremely fast, and came to Hawkeye in a blink of an eye. 3 knives cut out at the same time. Hawkeye was in a hurry and blocked Hideo in front of him. Clang. The huge metal crashing sound shows how powerful Zoro's attack is. Click. The ground beneath Hawkeye's feet was shattered. Great strength, but not enough to beat me. Hawkeye's arm violently swung the knife, pushing Zoro back. Then, without stopping at all, with the help of the inertia of swinging the knife, he turned around and swung the knife again. A huge emerald green sword ray shot out. Zoro looked solemn. He can finally sense how powerful the world's strongest swordsman, Eagle Eye, is. In the previous battle, the opponent probably did not even show 1/1000th of their strength. This kind of battle is what I hope for. Zoro was shaking with excitement. The 3 knives resisted the sword light swung by Hawkeye at the same time. Break me! Zoro shouted loudly, and with just his powerful strength, the sword light was torn apart. 3 swords, tiger hunt. Zoro is like a tiger descending the mountain, slashing at Hawkeye from above. There is a faint sword energy, forming the shape of a tiger's head. The tiger hunt this time was many times stronger than the last time. Even the eagle eye can't take it lightly. Clang clang. The 2 fought for dozens of rounds in an instant. Overall, Hawkeye still has the upper hand because, whether it is combat experience or swordsmanship skills, Hawkeye is far above Zoro. Zoro is more to use the powerful brute force endowed by the dragon-level monster cells, as well as the extremely fast speed and reaction ability, to fight recklessly with the eagle eye. In the understanding of swordsmanship, Zoro has not made much progress. Boom. When the 2 made another big move, the ground collapsed. Zoro gasped, and Johnny and Joseph's knives shattered. Hawkeye also panted slightly. As expected, the strongest in the world. I can't beat you even if I become a monster. Zoro took a deep breath, removed the word wad from his mouth, and put it into the scabbard. The last move determines the outcome. This is the move I just learned. There was anticipation in the eagle's sharp eyes. Then let me see, boy. Zoro closed his eyes. And when he opened his eyes, Senhan's sword light flickered, and it was almost impossible to see when he drew his sword. So fast. Hawkeye was shocked, and he felt a strong threat rarely. Bang bang. Sword and sword shadow. Except for Luo Xing and Yamato, no one knows how Zoro and Hawkeye played against each other. I only know that Zoro's figure suddenly appeared behind Hawkeye from the front of Hawkeye. There is a trace of blood on the half of the head. OE text. Hawkeye glanced at the small wound in his abdomen, looked at Zoro, and asked, what's the name of this trick? Yakugo middle.ai lion song. Zoro's voice fell, and a large piece of blood suddenly splashed from his back. But for the powerful physique after being blessed by dragon-level monster cells, this kind of injury is not too serious. Zoro smiled wryly. I lost again, and I actually tasted the taste of 2 defeats on the same day. Hawkeye was speechless for a while. Roronoa, you're just a hairy boy who just went to sea for a while, and even Haki doesn't know what it is. You can already cut me, aren't you satisfied? Although Hawkeye has never used Haki, the fact that Zoro can hurt him is enough to prove how terrifying Zoro's strength is by leaps and bounds. Also, from Zoro's AI/just now, Hawkeye also sensed a domineering connotation, like a precursor to Conqueror's awakening. It was this domineering that made Hawkeye not have time to defend, and was cut by Zoro with a wound. Hawkeye is almost certain that, over time, when Zoro masters Haki, the skills of swordsmanship will be more profound. It is not impossible to surpass him. Hawkeye put away the black knife knight and said to Zoro, I am in the strongest position, continue to wait for you. 95. Then, he looked at Luo Xing again. Your invention is getting more and more terrible. Can you tell me, what is your ambition? 55. Luo Xing raised his eyebrows and smiled slightly. What ambition can I have as an inventor? But I want to change the world with technology. Change the world? That would mean overthrowing the world government. Overthrowing the world government means launching a huge war that will affect the entire sea. And in this huge war, what kind of camp should his Hawkeye be in? 85. Good man Luo Xing, save Nami like Rebecca. Please subscribe. Zoro looked in the direction Hawkeye left, his eyes filled with a determined light. Sooner or later, he will defeat that man. This is the oath he made himself, and it is the agreement he made with Kuina. Luo Xing's voice said aside, your original strength is too weak. With the help of the effect of fairy beans, it is equivalent to using 5 lives to barely hold the dragon-level monster cells. Although this has improved your strength, speed, and reflexes by leaps and bounds, your kendo, your haki, are still stuck in place. It's like a child who gets a peerless sword, but doesn't have enough skills to use it. That's why you lose to Hawkeye again. Zoro listened respectfully to the teaching. Although Lord Luo Xing has always said that he is only a weak scientist, Zoro at this moment can vaguely feel that the true strength of Lord Luo Xing is probably still above the eagle eye. Practice your kendo, especially haki. On this sea, only haki can be above all above. And you already have the potential to be a king. Luo Xing, of course, also sensed domineering from Zoro's slash. As a traveler, he knew earlier that Zoro does have Conqueror's haki. In the original, Zoro didn't inadvertently show this power until his battle with the Fire Cinder. With the blessing of dragon-level monster cells, Zoro has awakened this power in advance. Zoro could clearly feel Luo Xing's attention to him, and couldn't help but be moved from the bottom of his heart. Thank you Lord Luo Xing for your teaching. I will definitely keep it in my heart. Think of him Zoro and Luo Xing, the famous 5 emperors in front of them, are just meeting for the first time. But as soon as Lord Luo Xing met, he said no one stands in the sky from the beginning, which resonated extremely with Zoro, and Hawkeye finally agreed to his challenge. Later, when he was defeated and lost, he gave him dragon-level monster cells. He did not hesitate to spend 5 celestial bins worth tens of billions of Baileys, allowing him to overcome the side effects and suddenly possess the current powerful strength. And now he continues to teach earnestly. How can Zoro not be grateful for this great grace? At the same time, he was still a little puzzled in his heart. Why did Lord Luo Xing treat him differently the first time they met? Luo Xing saw Zoro's doubts and smiled. Actually, we have a long history. You know that Yamato and I are both from Wanokuni? Zoro nodded. I saw it in the newspapers. Luo Xing said, your master Shimatsuki Koshiro was born in Wanokuni. My Enma sword was made by Koshiro's father Kozaburo himself. Hearing this, not only Zoro was stunned, but Yamato also had an extremely surprised expression. Zoro murmured to himself, it turns out that I can meet Lord Luo Xing and become Lord Luo Xing's subordinate, all of which are arranged by fate. Yamato asked curiously, since Kozaburo and Koshiro are from our Wanokuni, why did they end up in such a remote place in East Blue? Luo Xing coughed and glanced at Yamato. My stupid wife, what else can I do? Not because your terrifying father scares people away. But Luo Xing would definitely not say so. Luo Xing said, Kurazumi, the former general of Wanokuni, persecuted the Shimatsuki clan, causing them to flee. Kurazumi-oki, since you are dead, please take a few more pots. Yamato, as Wanokuni's new general, you must change this mistake and bring Shimatsuki Kozaburo and Koshiro back to their hometowns. Yamato nodded heavily without hesitation. Be sure to bring Kozaburo and Koshiro back to Wanokuni. Then he looked at Zoro and said, where are your masters and them? I will personally apologize to them. In Shimozuji village. Zoro said, the matter of asking master and them is wrapped up in me, and I will explain the whole thing to them. Yamato said very seriously, then I'll leave it to you, Luzatu. You must tell the 2 seniors that Wanokuni is not what it used to be. 35. Zoro agreed and said goodbye to Luo Xing, and turned around to return to his hometown, Shimozuji village. Wait. Luo Xing suddenly called from behind. Zoro turned his head in surprise. Is there anything else you need to order, Lord Luo Xing? Luo Xing said, bring the sword god and sword saint. What? Cough. It's your 2 friends. Lord Luo Xing, I can do it alone. Be sure to bring it. I don't want to wait for you for a few months. 35. Luo crossing is already a commanding tone. Zoro's face was instantly embarrassed. He understood Luo Xing's meaning. Lord Luo Xing is afraid that he will get lost. Desperately, he got on the boat of Johnny and Joseph, and asked them to row quickly. After waiting a little farther, Zoro roared under his voice, you 2 bastards, did you tell Lord Luo Xing that my sense of direction is not good? Johnny and Joseph shouted innocently, we definitely didn't say you're a lunatic, big brother Zoro. The volume is so loud, come on, now the whole world knows that Zoro is a lunatic. Alvida pirate ship. Yamato looked at the 3 live treasures with a smile. Unlike Luo Xing who was happy when he accepted a potential subordinate, Yamato was more happy to be able to change Wanokuni's previous mistakes. Yamato said, this trip to East Blue is really worth it. Luo Xing agreed, yes. But in addition to caring about Zoro, the strongest swordsman in the future, he did not forget to always pay attention to another important figure. That is the little thief cat Nami. Luo Xing looked at Nami's slim body from the corner of his eye, with orange hair, delicate melon-seeded face, and fair skin. She was really a beautiful girl full of energy. Ask for flowers. It reminded Luo Xing of Rebecca. The two women are only 10 years old, but they have endured hardships that should not be endured at this age. Luo Xing, as a good person who is willing to help others, must save Nami like Rebecca. However, with his wife Yamato by his side, he couldn't be too proactive. Luo Xing lay comfortably on the chair, and said to Alvida, who was shivering in the corner, "Not yet sailing?" Alvida's fat body shuddered, and she felt like she had just walked through hell. It's terrible. What happened just now is far beyond her previous worldview. Alvida stood up and crawled, panicked and said, "Yes, Lord Five Emperors, I will set off immediately." Set off immediately. Yamato then realized that there were other people on board. Alvida is such a small and vicious pirate. She is too lazy to look at it, but she has a lot of interest in the pretty and cute Nami. Yamato caught up with Nami. Nami replied cautiously, and occasionally glanced at Luo Xing, who was lying on the chair tremblingly. Yamato noticed this, patted his chest and said, "Don't be afraid of him. If he dares to bully you, just tell me." Nami squeezed his sweat and forced a smile. The 5 famous emperors are 10,000 times more terrifying than Arlong. Can she not be afraid? But from the conversation just now, Nami already knew that the wife of the 5 emperors in front of him was a kind-hearted, innocent and good person. Nami suddenly had an idea in her heart that she never dared to think about before. Night. Luo Xing was about to fall asleep with his arms around Yamato. Suddenly there was a sound of crying from the next room. Yamato sat up. "It's Nami's sister crying. I'll go check it out." Luo Xing looked at Yamato's back, and his eyes were a little funny. "Silly wife, that sly little thief cat is clearly crying for you on purpose." However, Luo Xing didn't care either. With Nami's strength, no matter what kind of tricks she played, it wouldn't be the slightest threat to Luo Xing and Yamato. About half an hour later, Yamato came back with a solemn and serious expression. Yamato looked at Luo Xing and said in a very firm tone, "We're going to save Sister Nami." Luo Xing was startled. Yamato stepped forward. 2 jade arms hooked Luo Xing's neck. Tears glistened in his big beautiful eyes. "Sister Nami just told me about her experience. She is so pitiful. She was bullied by that fisherman Arlong and had to steal outside. Husband, we must save Sister Nami." 5. Luo Xing was stunned, and probably understood what Nami said to Yamato. He embraced Yamato's slender waist and said in a doting voice, "Of course I will do what my wife ordered." Yamato happily took a sip of Luo Xing, and it was a success that night. How does the stupid Yamato know that saving Nami is right in Luo Xing's arms? 86. Nami and Nuoqi Gao's sister flowers, the war base prepared in advance. Please subscribe. In the original book, when Nami first met Luffy, he didn't think about letting Luffy defeat Arlong, the Murloc. She has been among the major pirate ships for so many years, and she has never had the idea of asking others for help. Because, in East Blue, the weakest in the world, Arlong, the Murloc, is the pirate with the highest bounty and the strongest strength. No one is stronger than Arlong. It leads the dragon pirates, which are all Murlocs, and is undoubtedly the #1 pirates of East Blue. Who do you think Nami can turn to for help? Who dares to help Nami? Oh, why not go to Marine, you ask? Nami just sneered a few times. Since his adoptive mother Belmia, a retired Marine soldier, was killed by Arlong, Marine has ignored her. Even Colonel Mouse, who manages the Kokosa village area, colluded with Arlong to oppress the villagers, and Nami no longer had the slightest trust in Marine. No one can help her. Nami is on her own, walking on a vicious pirate ship to steal money, and begging Arlong to raise his hand to the villagers of Kokosa village. Her life is full of endless darkness. But today, Nami finally saw the light and saw hope. 137. She meets a superhero who can run over Arlong with just a lift of a finger. After all kinds of entanglements and hesitations, Nami finally made up her mind that she would use the big man to help her get rid of Arlong. Of course Nami didn't dare to go to the big man in person, but through observation, she found that the wife of the great man was a very pure and kind person, and she was very friendly to her. At night, Nami deliberately cried in the room, crying loudly. Sure enough, the kind and great wife came to see her and asked her what happened. Nami cried and told what happened to him, and when it came to the emotional part, his eyes were red and tears were streaming down his face. This is Nami's true feelings. She really wants to cry a lot to vent the pain in her heart. Yamato, who was overflowing with sympathy, immediately had red eyes, and immediately assured Nami that he would definitely help her. So, the scene where Yamato looked for Luo Xing last night happened. The next day during the day, Luo Xing instructed Alvida to drive the boat to the village of Kokosa. Nami, who was hiding in the cabin, was overjoyed, and his heart almost jumped out of excitement. Her plan worked. That kind and innocent sister Yamato persuaded the terrifying 5 Emperor Luo Xing to help her. Luo Xing sensed Nami's joy behind him, and the corners of his mouth evoked a faint arc. The girl who thinks she has succeeded, you are still too naive. After Alvida heard Luo Xing's order, He hurriedly turned the boat and didn't dare to say a word. Luo Xing saw Alvida's chubby body, sweating profusely while at the helm, and frowned. It's too weak, it's just too weak. That's all. You must not be white because of your fat. Let you try to eat a weird cell. Luo Xing called Alvida and threw her a lowest level tiger level monster cell, saying, eat, whether you can bear it or not depends on your own creation. Alvida was so surprised, her hands were shaking with excitement. She never imagined that the 5 emperors not only did not kill her, but also rewarded her with a precious tiger-level monster cell. To know, tiger-level monster cells were fired up to the sky-high price of 1 billion Baileys in the sea. It is dozens of times higher than her Alvida's 5 million bounty. Even the slippery fruit that Luo Xing took away was not worth the tiger-level monster cell. Alvida banged his head 3 times loudly, and then swallowed the tiger-level monster cells in one bite. Then she started screaming. After all, her strength is too weak. Even a tiger-level monster cell, it is difficult to bear. Fortunately, a great deal of fat made a great contribution, so that Alvida finally managed to hold on, and his strength suddenly soared tenfold. Looking at the excited Alvida dancing, Luo Xing said lightly, go to the evil dragon pirates, kill Arlong, and all the Murlocs who dare to resist to the end will also be wiped out. After all, he went straight into the cabin. What is Arlong, and is it worth Luo Xing's hands-on? He didn't even bother to look at each other. If Arlong's former boss, Jinbei, the current 7 warlords of the sea, would barely have that qualification. Alvida hurriedly ordered, yes, Lord 5 Emperors. She didn't dare to take Luo Xing's name as a taboo, and used the honorary title of the 5 Emperors. Anyway, Luo Xing's name as the 5th Sea Emperor is indeed well deserved. Alvida continued to row the boat, a murderous grin on her increasingly uglier face. Fishman Arlong, he always bullied the old lady a lot, and even asked the old lady to collect the protection fee, and the old lady asked him to return it all right away. Stay in the past. Alvida would never dare to trouble Arlong with a bounty 4 times higher than hers, reaching 20 million Baileys. But now, she has eaten the monster cells given by the 5 emperors, so what is the mere Arlong? After half a day, the pirate ship arrives at the small island where the village of Kokosia is located. Yamato heard that there were Murlocs here, and immediately his eyes lit up to see it, so he followed Alvida to the base camp of the dragon pirates. Luo Xing naturally didn't go. He looked at the orange-haired girl in front of him in surprise. Aren't you going to have a look? Your enemy is about to die. Nami was unexpectedly silent for a long time, even forgetting the fear of Luo Xing for a while. Her fists were clenched tightly, her nails sinking into her flesh. Luo Xing somewhat understands that this kind of enemy is about to die, and the haze of many years has been swept away, but instead he has a dazed mentality. He stood up and said, then take me to visit your village. Nami did so subconsciously. On the way, she suddenly woke up. What a terrifying existence the man beside her was. She didn't answer the other party's question just now. Nami was terrified and almost fainted. But she soon discovered that the man did not look angry. She carefully rolled her eyes and quietly glanced at Luo Xing's face. If it weren't for the terrifying strength and identity, this man is really handsome. Nami was taken aback by the thought that popped up in his mind, and quickly threw it out of the sky. But she did have an inexplicable feeling that the man beside her didn't seem as scary as she thought. Enter the Koka village, close to Nami's residence. Luo Xing suddenly stopped and said, you stand here and don't move, I'll buy you some oranges. Nami froze suddenly, staring blankly at the man's back. Tangerine is a fruit that I have loved since I was a child. Since her adoptive mother Belmere was killed by Arlong, how many years has she not eaten? Luo Xing came back soon and threw the orange to Nami. Nami hasn't recovered yet. At this moment, a young woman with short blue hair came out of the room and exclaimed in surprise, Nami, you're finally back. Then I saw you crossing. This is, Nami took a deep breath and suppressed the turbulent mood caused by the oranges. He leaned into his sister Nuoqi Gao's ear and muttered a few words in a low voice. Nuoqi's black and bright eyes suddenly widened to the maximum. 5 emperors. Luo Xing hurriedly bowed down. Luo Xing took a step forward, grabbed Nuoqi Gao's wrist, and said, don't be too polite. The other hand grabbed Nami's wrist again. Let's go inside and talk. Nami and Nuoqi Gao are 2 sisters with different styles. One is young, beautiful, lively and lovely. The other is charming, elegant, mature and moving. Luo Xing enjoyed it and was quite satisfied. The only dissatisfaction is that Nami seems to be a little small, not as broad-minded as he had in his previous life impression. Before leaving, Luo Xing said to Nami, I know you are a cheerful and confident girl who likes to wear swimsuits. This is a stretch underwear that I invented. The cover has the effect of plumping bears. Remember to wear it often. I will visit your sisters next time. Hearing Nami's quirky girl, her face turned slightly red. She and Nuoqi stared blankly at the direction Luo Xing left. Nuoqi smiled and said, the 5 emperors are not as terrible as the legends, they are quite kind. 5.4 Anyway, because of him, Nami, you, me, the village, and the whole island were saved. 99. He is our benefactor. 35. Nami held the orange in his hand and nodded quietly. Luo Xing spent 2 days in Kokosa village, and finally brought Zoro, Shimatsuki Kozaburo and Koshiro. During this period, the power of the evil dragon pirates was completely swept away by Alvida, who had greatly increased his strength. The mouse colonel who colluded with Arlong was beaten into a pig's head, but Luo Xing did not let Alvida kill him, but said, "It's more useful to keep him than to kill him. Alvida, you will be stationed here from now on, and this Colonel Mouse will help you cover and develop your own power. In the great war destined to be waged against the world government, this place may become a base for the beasts in East Blue. Moreover, the sisters Nami and Nuoqi Gao are still here, and Luo Xing will definitely come back." After everything is over, with the grateful cheers of Nami, Nuoqi Gao and all the villagers of Kokosia village, Luo Xing, Yamato, Zoro started their journey back to Wanokuni. 87. The Incredible Red Hair, Wanokuni's earth-shaking changes. Please subscribe. At the same moment Luo Xing brought Zoro back to Wanokuni, Town, where Zoro, Johnny, and Joseph had planned to go before they met Eagle's Eyes. A boy in a straw hat, facing a vicious man with an axe and dressed in marine captain costume, barked his teeth and shouted, "I'm Monkey D. Luffy, the man who will become One Piece in the future." King Luffy wouldn't know, during his fierce confrontation with the axe monker, he has lost forever the right and left hand of the One Piece that belonged to him. New World, Red Hair Pirates. Hawkeye returned from East Blue and came here directly without returning to his island. The Redheads are having a party. Seeing Hawkeye, the Redhead laughed while holding a wine glass. "Hawkeye, it's just the right time for you to come back. Come and compete with me on your drink." Hawkeye walked up to the Red Hair, took a look at the Red Hair and said, "Redhead, you've fallen." Redhead Shanks hooked Hawkeye's neck with a smile, squinting and said, "What kind of depravity? Isn't it normal to have a banquet and drink? Don't forget that we are pirates." Hawkeye got rid of the red-haired arm and said, "I heard it all on the way. You went to the Whitebeard pirates, and you got a slap in the face." Hearing this, the redhead finally stopped smiling, gave a wry smile, and sighed. "I went to Whitebeard for 18 ace, but Whitebeard didn't listen to my advice." Hawkeye, I have a hunch that the times are about to change drastically. Redhead rarely speaks in such a serious tone, and once he uses such a tone, it proves that something big must happen. The times will not only undergo drastic changes, but a huge war that will affect the whole world is probably inevitable. 99. Hawkeye suddenly said something like this. The redhead was startled, and was about to ask, when Ben Beckman suddenly interjected, "Hawkeye, are you injured?" The red hair was startled, and the alcohol was a little sober. Only then did he notice that Hawkeye was wearing a bandage on his abdomen. The redhead was quite shocked. "Hawkeye, you traveled to East Blue, how could you be injured with your strength?" How strong Hawkeye's strength is, and the redhead who has learned swordsmanship with him, can't be more clear. Beckman, including the rest of the redhead cadre, stared at Hawkeye. They wondered who had the ability to injure Hawkeye. However, Hawkeye's expression was more puzzled than they were, and he frowned. "East Blue has such a terrifying existence as the king of the sea. Isn't it normal for me to be injured?" Redhead, didn't you have an arm cut off by him too? Before I left, you said that if I met the king of the sea, my life might be in danger. The redhead just felt thirsty, and was pouring the wine into his mouth. Hearing Hawkeye's words, he spit out all the wine with a puff. Fortunately, Hawkeye flashed fast, otherwise he would be sprayed on his face. Hawkeye said angrily, "Redhead, what are you doing?" Shanks hurriedly apologized. I'm sorry, I can't help it." Except for Beckman, Reikaru and other cadres of the Red Troop, all of them looked like they were trying to hold back their laughter at this time. Hawkeye was even more confused. "What are you laughing at? What's so funny?" The redhead said, "Hawkeye, you really found the king of the near sea, and you were bitten by it." "No, injured?" Hawkeye's voice with regret. "No, I didn't get to meet the king of the sea this time. I encountered another existence that was beyond my expectations, and it was the source of the Great War." One just said. The redhead breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. "Who is it?" "Luo Xing, the consort of the beasts." "Who?" The redhead's eyes widened instantly. Beckman also stood up from the same place, and Lakilu didn't eat the chicken legs. Obviously, Luo Xing, the prestige of the 5 emperors at sea, was enough for the 4 emperors regiment to take extremely seriously. "I met Luo Xing and saw his true face." Hawkeye repeated. "He wounded you?" Beckman asked. "No, it's a fledgling boy." "How is that possible?" The redhead was unbelievable. "How could a hairy boy hurt you?" Hawkeye sighed. "It was really impossible for him to hurt me at first. I only used a small dagger to easily defeat him. However, Luo Xing fed him a monster cell, and this person's strength soared 100 times in an instant, and also seems to have awakened the Conqueror's Haki, which I was wounded by one accident." 35. Redhead, Beckman, and others were stunned. Hairy boy, eating monster cells, his strength skyrocketed 100 times. Awakening conquerors, hurting Hawkeye. It's like listening to a fairy tale. Beckman took a deep breath, thought for a moment, and said, "Presumably that young man was eating the more advanced monster cells eaten by the 3 disasters, otherwise there would be no such heaven-defying growth." Beckman deserves to be known as the world's most intelligent mind, so quickly guessed the truth. The more advanced monster cells could hurt Hawkeye when eaten, and the cadres of the Red Regiment couldn't help showing expressions of incomparable envy and even desire. After all, no one doesn't want to be strong. After some shock, the redhead asked a more critical question than the weird cell. Hawkeye, you should be the first person in the outside world to see the true face of the mysterious Luo Xing. What kind of person is he? This question made Hawkeye think for a long time. He remembered that he had challenged Luo Xing twice, but the other party did not accept it, saying that he did not like fighting, and that if he had to fight, he would kill the enemy. That kind of plain and calm but also contains some kind of supreme majesty, which shocked the Hawkeye at that time. Hawkeye thought for a long time before answering. What kind of person he is, I can't describe exactly, there is only one word to describe: unfathomable. As soon as this statement came out, everyone in the red group, including the red hair and Beckman, were all awe-inspiring. Wanokuni, Luo Xing and Yamato, who had been rushing for a few days, finally came back. In fact, it didn't take so long, mainly because Yamato went out for the first time and wanted to play when he saw something novel. With Luo Xing's doting on his wife Yamato, of course there is nothing unacceptable. So it took so long. Is this the land of Wanokuni? Zoro jumped off the boat, took a deep breath, his eyes filled with excitement and said, even if it's so far away, I can still feel that there are many beast-like powerhouses here. Along the way, Luo Xing briefly taught Zoro about the use of haki. Zoro's comprehension is very strong, and observation haki has already made some achievements. Therefore, he can have such a feeling. Luo Xing smiled slightly. 100 beasts, all of them are beasts. You will not be short of opponents. Zoro is even more excited. Although he has eaten dragon-level monster cells, there are still many shortcomings that need to be filled. He has to practice hard and fight against the strong. One day, defeat Eagle 137 and become the strongest swordsman. Behind Zoro are his master Shimatsuki Koshiro, and Koshiro's father Kozaburo. The two have not returned to their hometown for more than 10 years. As soon as they stepped into the territory of Wanokuni, their eyes were instantly moist and filled with emotion. They were actually reluctant to come back at first, because they were driven away by Kaido and Kurozumi. But he couldn't stand Zoro's pleading, and when he heard that the Kurozumi serpent was killed, now Wanokuni has a new look and the people live and work in peace, they can't believe their ears. I couldn't bear it any longer and decided to go back to Wanokuni to see it for myself. At a glance, they were completely shocked. Wanokuni isn't just a new look, it's been completely transformed. If they hadn't seen a few old people they used to know, they would have thought they had gone to the wrong country. They were even more shocked to hear that the people of Wanokuni called Kaido's daughter Yamato the most beautiful general, and Luo Xing, the concubine of the beasts, the young master. Shimatsuki Kozaburo and Koshiro were silent at the same time. After an unknown amount of time, Kozaburo sighed. Even if Lord Eden were alive, Wanokuni would be no better than he is now. 6. Koshiro agreed. Neither of them are Kazuki Eden's retainers, nor do they have a deep personal relationship with Eden himself. When they opposed Oki and left Wanokuni, it was purely Oki and Kaido that went too far, causing public anger, and they had to fight back. Now that Wanokuni has become so good, they have no reason to oppose the General Yamato. The two of them, like Heiyu's master who lives in the flower capital, Tengusha and Fito, both maintain a tacit approval of Wanokuni's current situation, and don't mention the Kazuki family at all. 88. Vergo's vote. Arrest Trafalgar Law. Subscribe. Ad. The G5 branch is one of Marine's largest bases in the New World. As the base chief of the base here, Vergo is also quite strong, not weaker than Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral. It's just that no one inside Marine knows that Vergo is actually the top cadre of the Donquixote family and the spy that Doflamingo ambushes in Marine. Unfortunately, Doflamingo was killed by Luo Xing, and the base camp Dressrosa was also occupied by the 100 Beasts. He, who was a prosperous spy in Marine, instantly became a man without a master, a tree without roots. It would be fine if Vergo forgot his previous identity, completely changed his stance, and was a Marine. But the ambition and pirate nature hidden deep in his heart made him unwilling to do so. He longed to see the throne on the sea, longed to follow one person, to the highest peak. In the past, he thought that the person who finally ascended the throne must be Dover. But Dover was dead. Then, Vergo turned his attention to Luo Xing, who killed Dover, and to the beasts. He couldn't help but have the idea of joining the 100 Beasts. The group of beasts who can kill Dover is more likely to ascend to the final throne than Dover. Vergo was not a hesitant, and immediately made up his mind that he wanted to join the camp of the 100 Beasts. In order to gain the trust of the 100 Beasts, he intends to give the 100 Beasts a welcome gift certificate. That is, Luo who stole the opop fruit worth 5 billion Baileys from the Donquixote family. Vergo used his identity as the captain of Marine Base to search for Luo's information everywhere. I soon saw Luo's reward order. A terrifying and cold smile appeared on Vergo's face. He used Marine's intelligence network all over the world again, and after spending several days, he finally found the specific trace of Luo. On an island in the first half of the Grand Line, Vergo made an immediate decision and dispatched all the warships of the G5 branch, leaving only a few troops to guard the base, and under the banner of destroying the pirates, he led the rest of the navy into the first half of the Grand Line. Trafalgar Law, who doesn't know anything about this, is currently having a party with his fellow heart pirates. He just used the room to catch several rabbits and wild boars, sitting by the campfire, roasting meat and drinking. From time to time, I get a few more bebos, and I just feel that this kind of life is really comfortable. Even if I lose the goal of revenge, it doesn't seem to be a big deal. Luo Xing thought leisurely. Suddenly, a harsh siren came from the coast. The fur tribe warrior Panda and Bebo jumped up. What's the matter? What happened? The member in charge of the vigilance mission came running from the coast out of breath and shouted, "No, Captain, it's Marine. Marine is after us." Bebo immediately exclaimed exaggeratedly, "Marine? How do they know we're here? It's just a deserted island." "Robbie is worthy of being the captain of a boat," without showing a panicked expression, he said calmly. "Even knowing how Marine found us doesn't make any sense in the current situation." Luo looked at his partner who had always reported the news, and pointed directly to the crux of the problem. How many troops did Marine send out, and how many warships did they have? Knowing these 2 points is the real key. The partner said, "There are 3 warships, probably several hundred troops." Hearing such an answer, no matter how calm Luo was, he couldn't help but take a deep breath. It's unbelievable that Marine dispatched 3 warships. To know, Luo's heart pirates have just entered the Grand Line and have not done any major events. Luo's current bounty is only tens of millions. It was normal for Marine to send a warship to catch him. Sending 2 ships would be a big deal. As for sending 3 ships, Luo can only think that someone in Marine is targeting him. Who the hell is targeting me? Luo Xing turned around, but for a while he had no idea. Besides, now is not the time to think. He took a few deep breaths, tried his best to keep himself calm, and said to the partners around him, "Throw away all the treasures and food in your hands, take only weapons, get on board at once, and get out of here." 35. Marine came with 3 warships, several hundred troops, absolutely not to engage in combat, only to flee. Luo's pirate ship is a submarine that can dive deep underwater. In this way, even if the 3 warships came to surround him, he could slip away from the water. The members of the Heart Pirates knew that the situation was urgent and immediately followed suit. In just 5 minutes, the entire crew entered the submarine, and Marine's 3 warships have also entered their field of vision. Luo Xing looked at the figures on the warship, and one of them made his pupils shrink suddenly. It's him, Vergo. He didn't die with Doflamingo. Luo understood who was targeting him. It's no surprise that it was Vergo, because Vergo knew that he ate top hop fruit. Luo suppressed the shock in his heart and said only one sentence, "Dive down immediately and escape." The crew hurriedly controlled the submarine to dive. On the deck of a warship several hundred meters away, Vergo had a half-smiley sneer on his face. "Luo, it took me so much effort to find you. Did I think it would let you escape easily?" Vergo raised his hand and said to the adjutant behind him, "Fire the torpedoes and blow up their submarines." "Follow your orders." The adjutant led the way. It didn't take long. One by one torpedoes were launched from the bottom of the warship. Boom boom boom. There was a huge explosion at the bottom of the sea. Inside the submarine, Pippa yelled in horror, it's over now." Marine even has torpedoes ready. Trafalgar Law's expression was also extremely difficult to see, and he gritted his teeth and said, "Vergo, you bastard." Boom. Suddenly, the submarine shook violently, and a torpedo exploded less than a meter away. A crew member shouted. The submarine was blown up and seawater came in. No matter how hard it was to keep calm, Luo shouted, "Hurry up and plug the crack." "It can't be closed, Captain. The breach is too big." Luo's body shook. If the submarine is allowed to dive again, his demon fruit power will be buried in the sea. It seemed that he could not escape today. Luo had no choice but to let the submarine surface and run aground on the deserted island beach. The members of their Heart Pirates returned to their original places. At this time 3 marine warships also came ashore. Vergo led the sailors off the ship and came to Luo's front, with a cat-and-mouse expression on his face. Luo, long time no see." Luo's facial muscles twitched slightly, and he let out a low growl. "Vergo." Vergo's expression turned gloomy, and he said coldly, "Mr. Vergo, have you forgotten, Ro?" Vergo had no intention of talking to Rodo, as there were many marines here. He waved, "Capture all the pirates, those who dare to resist will be killed." The battle between Marine and the pirates broke out in an instant. The number of Marines has an absolute advantage, and the Heart Pirates are all small pirates that have not yet fully developed. The battle was a one-sided situation from the start. Luo was furious. The only way to break the game at the moment is to defeat the hostage Vergo and threaten Marine to let them go. Luo took the initiative to attack. Room. A transparent cover opens. The next moment, Luo actually disappeared from the spot, good Zhao, and teleported behind Vergo. The knife in the hand stabbed fiercely. Clang. However, there was a sound of gold and iron clashing, and his knife failed to penetrate Vergo's skin. Vergo turned around and looked at Luo with a sneer. Don't you even know armament haki, Luo? You're really getting worse. 99. Wanokuni, the capital of flowers. The group of Luo Xing who returned, after resting for a night, all went to work on their own. As General Wanokuni, Yamato has been away for so long and has a lot of business to deal with, so he went to work early in the morning. Zoro, on the other hand, saw the ghost island, and there was such a magical thing as a gravity training room. It was like seeing a rare treasure. He went in without saying a word and practiced day and night. His masters, Koshiro and Kozaburo, reminisced with Ayu's master, Tenga Yamato. As for Luo Xing, he quietly brought the slippery fruit to Xiaozi's other courtyard. Slippery fruit can make one's skin ultimate smooth, and can even slide on the ground. Luo Xing was really curious about what effect Xiaozi would have after eating it. If you sit in his arms, you don't need to move yourself. 89. Xiaozi who ate the slippery fruit. Vergo brought Luo here. Please subscribe. Luo Xing took the slippery fruit and walked into Xiaozi's room. The last time he came to Xiaozi, Xiaozi was practicing martial arts, and this time, it was dancing. Xiaozi's waist is bent back, her lower abdomen without any fat is arched upward, her hands are close to the ground, parallel to her feet, forming a perfect semicircle. Xiaozi's head is stretched out from between her two jade-like thighs, just in time to see Luo Xing walking in. She was visibly flustered. He wanted to stand up in a hurry, but his feet slipped and he fell to the ground with a hoot. Luo Xing hurriedly stepped forward and said with concern, "It hurts so much, I'll help you to the bed and rub it for you." This sentence seems familiar. Isn't it the excuse Luo Xing used when he bullied Xiaozi for the first time? Xiaozi obviously thought of it too. Her pretty face flushed, and she said in embarrassment, "I don't need your help." Struggling to stand. Luo Xing didn't seem to hear her refusal. He stepped forward, stretched one hand to Xiaozi's slender waist and the other to the crook of her legs, and hugged Xiaozi in the posture of a princess. In order to keep her balance, Xiaozi had to hook her hands around Luo Xing's neck. I became more and more embarrassed. Luo Xing walked to the bed, but did not put Xiaozi up, but sat down by himself, put Xiaozi on his lap, and said in a gentle voice, "It's better to help you need." 35. Nonsense. How could Xiao 137 believe Luo Xing's nonsense and turned his head to the other side? Luo Xing took out the slippery fruit and said, "Do I feed you, or do you eat it yourself?" Out of the corner of Xiaozi's eyes, he caught a glimpse of the devil fruit in Luo Xing's hands, and was startled, and turned his head. "You want to give me devil fruit?" Luo Xing nodded slightly. Xiaozi's eyes showed a hint of complexity. "Aren't you afraid of me running away? I heard that if you eat devil fruit, you will have some kind of powerful ability." "Don't worry, this devil fruit is not powerful," Luo Xing said seriously, "and even if it is powerful, only I can experience it." Xiaozi showed a confused expression. What's the meaning? What does it mean that only he can experience it? And when Xiaozi took a bite of devil fruit, she immediately understood what Luo Xing meant. This is actually the fruit that makes women's skin extremely smooth. Besides Luo Xing, who else can touch her Xiaozi's skin? Xiaozi probably understood why Luo Xing let her eat this kind of fruit, and was very embarrassed. Twisting his waist, trying to get out of Luo Xing's arms. Luo Xing flexed his arms. Puff. Xiaozi actually slid out like a loach. Luo Xing couldn't help sighing, as expected of a slippery fruit. It's really slippery. Although Xiaozi slipped out of Luo Xing's arms, she didn't adapt to her ability and could not stand firm. Luo Xing took Xiaozi into his arms again. He suddenly remembered a snack jelly from a previous life, which he liked very much. At this moment, Xiaozi's skin was as smooth as jelly. Luo Xing said in Xiaozi's ear, "It's getting late, so rest." Xiaozi stomped her feet. "It's noon now." Luo Xing said, "When I leave, it won't be too early." When Luo Xing left, it was indeed getting late, and the sun had already set. Slippery fruit really made him extremely satisfied, and he felt that he had eaten a lot of different types and tastes of jelly. In addition, there is a wonderful thing. Even the impact force that hits Xiaozi's skin will be slid away. That is to say, if you slap Xiaozi, the sound is loud, but Xiaozi will not feel pain at all. This is perfect for those who are a bit inclined. Luo Xing is satisfied. He is now full of Xiaozi's scent, so he can't go to see his wife Yamato. Luo Xing is going to go to the laboratory. Just then, the phone bug rang. Tilda. Luo Xing saw that it was Peggy One's phone number. Ever since they occupied Dressrosa, Fuzzy Fu, Runty, and Pijuan have been guarding Tokushima. Luo Xing hadn't seen Peggy One for a while. Don't say, I really miss that silly boy. He also remembered that Pijuan is now the only fruit in the three disasters and flu bao that has not evolved into a mythical beast. At that time, he promised to help him, but he has not yet done it. Luo Xing inevitably felt a little ashamed. However, when he picked up the microphone, the shame had already flown out into the sky. Little Pei, what's the matter? Bife, young master. Pijuan's voice said, there is a marine who wants to see you. Marine wants to see him? Luo Xing was quite surprised. He had no friendship with anyone in Marine. On the contrary, There is still a lot of hatred. Who is it? What's your name? It's called Vergo, the head of the Marine G5 branch. He said he was the undercover agent Doflamingo placed in Marine, and his real identity was the top cadre of the Quixote family. Peggy One's tone became somewhat disdainful and smug. It's ridiculous. Make up such a stupid lie, and still want to lie to me. Am I a fool when I'm a young master? 35. By the way, he also brought a pirate named Trafalgar Law, who said it was a nomination certificate for 100 beasts. Ha ha ha, what a big joke. Peggy One sneered. I checked, the Trafalgar Law is just a rookie with a bounty of tens of millions of Baileys, just because he wants to use it as a certificate. Where are we beasts pirates? Join if you want. Young master, in my opinion, that Vergo and Trafalgar Law are both undercover agents sent by Marine to steal your inventions, master. Young master. Peggy One's tirade was finally over. Luo Xing didn't respond for a long time. Young master, are you still there? On the other end of the phone was Peggy One's puzzled voice. Luo Xing said, Xiao Pei, I have a suggestion for you. What? Let your sister Auntie stop hitting your head with her golden forehead, or you'll soon become Jack's Iron Man. Peggy One. Luo Xing is really speechless for Peggy One's genius brain. By the way, can your beast group have a smarter brain? Think carefully about the comparison. It seems that apart from Jin, the best brains of the 100 beasts are Luo Xing's chief father-in-law Kaido. Luo Xing sighed helplessly and said, where are Vergo and that Trafalgar Law? I'll go see them now. Peggy One said weakly, I let them go, or I'll kill them. Luo Xing's anger suddenly couldn't hold back. Then why are you calling me? Pijuan dared to say that he made this call to show Luo Xing that he had seen through Marine's conspiracy. Luo Xing took a few deep breaths, suppressed his anger, and said in an unquestionable command tone, Little Pei, I'll give you a task, and immediately let that Vergo take Trafalgar Law and get out. If you can't do it, you can get out yourself. Yes. Yes, promise to complete the task, young master. 35. Hang up the phone. A smile appeared on Luo Xing's face, as if the anger just now was faked. It's really fake, because Luo Xing doesn't need to be angry. Vergo's surrender, and he even caught Trafalgar Law's vote, is simply a big surprise beyond the unexpected. And since Vergo went to Dressrosa, even if he was driven away by Pijuan, he would definitely come back. Luo Xing is convinced of this because Vergo's ambitions are not at Marine. In this sea, the only place that can accommodate Vergo's ambitions is the beasts. 90. Conjecture about Op Fruit, Marine's new weapon pacifist. Please subscribe. Dressrosa, Underground Factory. This is the place where Doflamingo once traded weapons with the Dark World, and is doing the same thing today. It's just that the owner has changed. When Vergo walked in the Underground Factory, there was inevitably a sigh in his heart. In the past, he came here with a master mentality. As the top cadre of the Quixote family, he was a big part of this Underground Factory. But now that he came again, he was only trembling and nervous, and there was even a trace of uncontrollable panic. After all, I'm about to meet that legendary man, 10 times more powerful and terrifying than Dover. And the words and deeds of that man next will determine his future fate of Vergo. Even though Vergo's temperament has always been calm, how can he not have a little panic? Oh, Vergo, you are a complete villain. 35. Beside him, there was an undisguised sarcastic voice. How long has Doflamingo been dead, and you are eager to take refuge in the enemy who killed him? Vergo, don't you think it's shameful for you to act like this? Vergo was expressionless. Armament Haki covered his fist and slammed into Luo's face. Boom. Luo was directly smashed and flew out, the corners of his mouth stained with blood. Vergo said coldly, I said it was Mr. Vergo. Remember, Lo, the justice of this world is written by the victors, and the only throne on the sea can only be climbed by the truly strong. Luo, a rookie pirate like you who has just debuted, his cognition is still at the level of a child playing a house. The one who just satirized Vergo was Trafalgar Law, who was captured by the latter and was going to send it to the beasts as a certificate. Luo was bound by chains, unable to wipe the blood from the corners of his mouth or stand up. Vergo stepped forward and picked it up. Luo's face was very ugly, and this feeling of being arbitrarily needed has not been felt for a long time since he escaped from the Quixote family. The two moved on. Luo was a little anxious, desperately thinking about how he could escape. If he didn't run away at this time and immediately saw the legendary Fifth Sea Emperor, then it would be even more impossible for him to escape. Vergo seemed to see his thoughts and said coldly, don't think about running away, you who don't even know Armament Haki can't escape from my hands. Luo's face twitched. Vergo is right, he doesn't have Master Haki yet. Even if he has the various magical abilities of Op Fruit, he can't hurt the opponent's clothes. But Luo was also unwilling to show weakness, saying, you are now the base commander of Marine G5 branch. You used so many warships and troops to capture me, but you handed me over to the beast's pirates. Are you not afraid of Marine suspecting you? 9. Vergo has long considered this point and said without hesitation, I will announce your Op Fruit ability to Marine. Marine must know better than me how amazing this 5 billion devil fruit is. It's not impossible that you use the op fruit ability to sneak away. Luo's face became more and more ugly. In front of the old and spicy Vergo, he is no match at all. Yo, here you are. A young strong man with a dragon horn on his head and a height of several meters walked towards him. When Vergo saw this person, he no longer faced Luo's condescension, but respectfully said, Lord Peggy-1. The person who came was Peggy-1 of the 100 Beasts group Flu Bao. Although Vergo is longer than Peggy 10,000 years, but Peggy-1, who has eaten the monster cells, is far stronger than Vergo. Therefore, Vergo did not dare to neglect at all. Even when he came here last time, he was called a liar by the other party and threatened to kill him. Vergo didn't dare to be angry. Let's go quickly. The young master has been waiting for you for a while. Peggy-1 said nothing without talking nonsense. The three got on an elevator, which was pulled by chains and kept going up. Every time he went up, Vergo's mood became tense, and Trafalgar Law's heart sank a little, and his hope of escaping became increasingly slim. The elevator did not stop until it reached the top floor of the Palace of Dressrosa. Peggy-1 brought Vergo and Trafalgar Law to a luxurious hall. On the high throne at the top of the hall, sat a tall young man with black hair and black pupils, with a handsome appearance. Vergo only glanced at the young man, and suddenly felt a kind of trembling feeling. Far from being comparable to his old master Doflamingo, Vergo knew immediately that this person was definitely the legendary concubine of the beasts, the 5 emperors Luo Xing. He fell to his knees without saying a word, also pulled Trafalgar Law to his knees and bowed respectfully. See Lord 5 emperors. Luo Xing stepped down from the throne, came to Vergo, and said lightly, get up. The calm voice seemed to contain some kind of terrifying majesty. When Vergo stood up, his back was wet with cold sweat at some point. The same goes for Trafalgar Law. Although he doesn't know observation hierarchy yet, he intuitively knows that the man in front of him is a terrifying existence he can't imagine. No wonder he can kill Doflamingo in seconds. Luo Xing's eyes swept across the faces of Vergo and Trafalgar Law. Luo Xing came to Dressrosa from Wanokuni without delay since receiving the call from Peggy-1. There are 2 very important reasons why he deserves to go out in person. One of the reasons is that Vergo's own strength is not bad. He is brave and resourceful, and he is qualified to let Luo Xing meet. In addition, Vergo's status as an undercover Marine at Marine is also critical. So far, none of the 100 Beasts has broken into Marine, and the addition of Vergo can make up for this shortcoming. Another reason is the Trafalgar Law. To be precise, op fruit by Trafalgar Law. Legend has it that this fruit can help people perform immortality surgery. When Luo Xing was on Sky Island, he wondered whether he could use Xiandu to allow Luo to perform many immortality operations. At that time, he had the idea of looking for Trafalgar Law. Unexpectedly, Vergo sent him here, and it really took no effort. Oh, by the way, there is another reason why you can't be polite to outsiders, that is, Luo Xing misses Viola and Rebecca a little bit. Luo Xing's tone was flat, but his attitude was gentle. Vergo breathed a sigh of relief, and at the same time was even more ecstatic. The attitude of Lord 5 Emperors clearly agrees with him. He successfully joined the Beasts Pirates and became a member of the strongest 4 Emperors group. Luo Xing asked Peggy-1 to take down Trafalgar Law and then send it to Wanokuni. And when the Sea Stone chain, a specialty of Wanokuni, was placed on Trafalgar Law, there was already a look of despair in his eyes. Being bound by Sea Stone, he really has no chance to escape. Luo Xing caught a glimpse of Trafalgar Law's despair, thought about it, and said to Vergo, what about the rest of the heart pirates? Vergo Gongxing Kaido, except for those who were killed during the capture process, the rest of the subordinates also brought them. 39. Vergo, who is full of eyesight, has already claimed to be his subordinate. With this ability to see words and emotions, he deserves to be an undercover agent in Marine, and he can even sneak into the high position of branch base chief. Luo Xing showed satisfaction and ordered, leave them all here too and I'll send them to Wanokuni with Trafalgar Law later. Trafalgar Law was shocked and looked at Luo Xing, full of confusion and incomprehension. Then he was pulled down by Peggy-1. Luo Xing did this because he didn't want Trafalgar Law to be too hostile to him. After all, Luo Xing hoped that the other party would have the surgery for immortality, so he must be willing to do so. Certainly, if Trafalgar Law doesn't appreciate Luo Xing's kindness, Luo Xing has no choice but to kill him and send someone to the ocean to find the reborn op fruit. These are all later stories. Luo Xing encouraged Vergo a few more words, and let him continue to be an undercover agent in Marine, and the beasts would not treat him badly in the future. After speaking, Luo Xing planned to find Viola and Aunt Rebecca's niece, but Vergo suddenly stepped forward, lowered his voice and said solemnly, Master, my subordinates recently heard that Marine has developed a special weapon, which is very powerful and has the power to crush hundreds of millions of pirates in bounties. Oh? Luo Xing raised his eyebrows. Do you know what that weapon is called? It seems to be called a weapon in the world, a pacifist. Gwing. He has locked the person's breath. Gwing. If you like this audiobook, subscribe the channel for more videos like this and join my Patreon if you want to support me. Leave some comment and let me know if you guys like this story, or you have a web novel you like and want to hear its audiobook. I will be happy to create them for you. Please like, share, and leave a comment on the video.